That's definitely our favorite part of the
Live.
show is watching the countdown, waiting for us to go live, right, Lenny?
It is. Yes, trying to get it just right. So, hi everybody. And I'm at an Airbnb and it's near a large Catholic church with bells. And boy, that was right on. Those bells just started going off and we went
Nice.
live. So something is in sync.
That's
So
great. That's great. I actually love that. I wish, when there's a church not that far from here that has bells that ring like that, and every now and then on a good day I can hear them. So
yeah,
not on a day when you have to have all your windows shut because the humidity is crazy here in the Northeast right now. So
yeah. Well, Debbie Downer, right? So
yeah. Anyway, we were chatting about the weather, friends. You missed the weather conversation. We don't need to regroup on that because we have a lot to talk about, right, Lenny?
we do. So and it's some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So
And fun stuff. Interesting, fun, experimental. Can't wait till we get to the place that I really want to, spend a few minutes. But
yep.
Let's start off with this paper. Friends, we have a paper to share with you. So we're getting right into it today. It's funny because this also came at us via email, but you had already found it. So there's this paper about ChatGPT or GPT-4 accurately simulating human responses in social science experiments. So Lenny, tell us about what your takeaway was, what you saw when you first looked at it, because I think it's pretty cool to think about.
Well, besides, holy crap, and here we go. I mean, those were.
Well, but the thing is I think this is just more of the same on some level. It's validating what we know. Those of us who believed that we were getting to this place, like I feel like anyway, to me, it's not surprising that it's capable of mimicry. Like, I don't think that's a surprise because we've been building towards this time, I think.
Well, I think it gets in. So it's actually interesting. We can have this conversation about synthetic sample, right? And there's like the traditional idea of synthetic sample, which the industry's done for a very long time, of based off of models of data of behavior, and that it's like polling. You can extrapolate, right? You sample correctly, and you can extrapolate what a large population is going to do. So nothing particularly new, more in depth, more robust. But this idea of how AI takes that to a different level, and particularly in this paper, it mimicked thousands of diverse demographic profiles. To replicate human responses and overall, and the implications for that are. So in our traditional way of thinking about modeling, data, et cetera, we have a fantastic new tool that can do that even more than it can be done in the past. But fundamentally, it still comes down to garbage in, garbage out. So that remains my concern, that the data these things, okay, we've proven it can do it, great. Man, we got to make sure that the data that's feeding it is accurate and correct and appropriate, or it is not going to be a good model.
Yeah. But I love the fact that there are, for everyone who's been dabbling in synthetic sample and synthetic data and the whole idea of, synthetic respondents, like, by the way, we are now having, like, time is passing and now we have studies that are showing us the possibilities and giving it some credibility. Like now there's, kind of science behind science behind the method, that I think it's like the method came first and now we're testing the method. And I think that's just from a kind of an academic standpoint, I think this is really interesting. Thank you to the social sciences for putting that level of rigor behind this sort of thing. So it's pretty cool.
And we should point out that was GPT-4.
Yeah.
So we're at 4.0 now, and 5 coming down the pike, and we have all the others. We're always kind of default to GPT because it was the first one out, right? I mean, my bet is that it would have all the same results for Claude or Mistral or anything else. The Gemini, that they're all, because they just keep leapfrogging.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, check that study out. But what was interesting about the timing of this study coming out this week, or hitting the news cycle this week, is that there were these 2 other studies which are published by research firms, right, that are still mapping how people are feeling about the industry. And I just think that's, about the about AI within the industry. And I just think that's also another thing to point out is we are still doing research on the research implications or how the researchers are feeling. And both of these came at it in a different way. So the first one that we have to share is from CMB, Chadwick Martin Bailey. And it's talking about consumer perceptions of AI and how, there's optimism and there's concern and there's, different industries that are leaning in or people are a little more apt to move into. Like it's kind of like the consumer playing field. It's saying what we've been saying for a while is that there's this dichotomy of how people feel about it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that people thought, yeah, this really makes sense in healthcare, finance, fairly
Yeah.
complex and inefficient
Yeah.
industries in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
But not so much on other components, right?
Right.
There's a lot of pushback around data privacy, security, ethics, all of those things. People see this could, we don't know the arc here. Is it the villain arc or the hero arc yet?
Right.
AI, right?
Or both. I mean,
or both, right? User powers for good or evil, right?
Right. I think that the good or evil days are behind us and we are at a yes and, or, both coexisting. And that is the, paradox that we have to manage going forward with all of this is yes to all of them, right? Like, yes, we have data privacy issues. And yes, we have risk of bias. And, yes, we have some security issues. And yes, it's making us incredibly efficient in so many ways. And yes, we can drive innovative thinking with it if we use it properly. Like those things are all coexisting.
Yep, absolutely. And it's going to be that way for a while.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well,
So
actually, probably that's just reality now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is just our new normal. It's here. We just live in it now. So yeah, that's the CMB article. And the info tools, they also did it, this one more specifically about market research and how it's playing out. So we have the one that kind of talks about people in general, and then we have this info tools one about the state of AI and market research. So another good read if you're tracking, kind of AI. Just in the industry. So I don't know that there was anything new in this one. I think it's really validating.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw anything new.
No, I mean, our friends at InfoTools that we've worked with for Grit, they understand data structure, data management, right? That's their thing. Always has been. They're great at that. And that was what they zoomed in, ethical standards, data integrity, those concerns. And those are fundamental and things that our industry absolutely has a significant stake in.
Yeah.
So it was, I'm glad they put it out.
Yeah. And I think for people, in general, like keep reading, keep learning, keep making sure you're clear on how you feel about it. Because I think that on some level, knowing how you feel about it and facing the ambiguity you may feel or facing the stress you might feel or whatever, that's one way that's going to get you, further down the acceptance, like acceptance of this is what's happening, right? You don't have to decide whether it's happening because it is. And now you just have to get to a place where you're comfortable, where you accept it, where you're aware of the risks, and then you can, plod forward accordingly. So.
And that's a good segue into.
It is a good segue. See what I did there?
Yeah, I do. There is definitely a through line in all of our topics today. So.
All right. So here's the deal. I'm so excited about this. I'm so glad you spotted it. So, Lenny and I both check out Product Hunt and see what's happening. I missed this one, and it's called me.bot. Anyway, and so I was like, all right, let me check out what MeBot is all about. And there is a video. Please don't play the video right now. Wait till Lenny and I are done talking. But there is a video that it had me so quickly because it was showing about all of these different data points that somebody takes on and all of these random ideas for somebody like me, whose brain is always curating and pulling things in and thinking, oh, I should do this with this information. And oh, I should do this with this information. This MeBot is like an AI personal assistant, one part life coach, another part, admin. And I haven't done the demo, but I plan to as soon as possible. I mean, not done the demo, signed up. I plan to as soon as possible to try it out because I think it's cool just from a wrangling everything that's happening in your brain, especially if you have a bit of squirrel brain like I do. Um, I can interact with it via voice. I can share things to it. I'm giving a lot of information, and then Lenny can talk about the then Lenny, you go with the research applications because I'm still on the what's in it for me part of the exploration. You can, yeah, I can share an article, I can share an image, I can share a social media post, I can share all these random things, and it will look for the through lines and the common threads. I don't even know what it could do for me in my role as content curator. Like, I feel like I might need a whole separate thing for that. But if it helps me connect dots from random thoughts I have about work and my personal life, like, I'm seeing huge possibilities for this application, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. It trained off of a large personal model um, that's a memory archive. So, we have LLMs, and now we're getting more of a focused LLM off it. I mean, besides, got multiple episodes of Black Mirror that come to mind. I mean, there really were several like, oh.
Yeah, I know.
But my first thought was, okay, right, we knew this was coming. We're talking about avatars and and digital assistants and models, and now they're getting very personalized, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, uh, what? So would it be wrong for my MeBot, for example,
Yeah.
to answer a survey about my shopping behavior? It's got the data, right?
Right.
So, or would it even be a survey at that point? Would it actually become something almost like a diary? So
Yeah.
there's so many implications, and we're a long way from widespread adoption on this stuff, right? Well, I say a long way.
Could be 2 weeks.
You're right. It could be, by Christmas, we all got a MeBot, But yeah, what'd you
So
give for Christmas? I got a MeBot. Yeah, me
Well, I
too.
just started thinking about what you were saying. So, in the last 24 hours, I have 2 weddings coming up in the next month of my life. And I've been out dress shopping, over the weekend with my daughter, and I've been shopping online. And I finally last night for the wedding that's coming up in 2 weeks, I just was like, you know what? I'm doing Rent the Runway for that one. Like, the decision making about how I shop. So when you start to talk about could this like, if the MeBot had that level of information,
Mhm.
how would it know? How would it know when I decide to go to Rent the Runway instead of shopping online at, one of my favorite
Right.
retailers, or instead of going to a brick and mortar? Like, how could it answer questions unless I tell it? But maybe it asks me why. Like, does it qualitatively interview me with the things I input into it? I don't know yet.
Don't know. Yeah, it just an interesting questions. Anything around consumption,
Yeah.
my default would be why the hell not,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? The anything around attitudes and preferences, probably not there yet, but I could see it getting there.
Yeah. It could.
So,
I mean, yeah, it could also just give the data, like, she's 2 weeks out from this wedding and then went to Rent the Runway, like, and that's
right.
actually prime rent. Again, I'm making stuff up, folks, but, like, maybe that's actually telling, is that shop in person, shop online 2 weeks before she pulls the trigger on Rent the Runway because she's out of shopping time.
Yep.
Like, that's actually interesting data that across many different platforms who might be curious as to, somebody may say, oh, she came to our site, but then left without a purchase, or she left stuff in her cart, which are 2 things that actually happened. So, they might have that data, but they don't know what I actually did next, which was pull the trigger on Rent the Runway.
Right. Or they could. I mean, go back to that first paper, right?
Yeah.
So with the if you're adapting, so say shout out to our friend Will Leach. Just for example, right? There's lots of
Spoiler
folks.
alert coming. Anyway, go ahead.
That are building and have built archetypal models of behavior based on profile information, and you layer that in. Theoretically, it could mimic. Like, okay, here's what we know about Karen and Lenny. They fit into this personality profile and blah blah blah. And here's how they tend to make decisions. based on these drivers of values and emotions and all those things, which we do today. We do that.
Right.
We built that into segmentation models.
Right.
So could that be overlaid into something like this? I would expect to see that happen pretty quickly, at least as
Yeah.
an experiment.
Yeah.
So yeah, here we are. I mean, and it's all about, back to the CMB stuff. It's about consumer adoption at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, what's interesting about that, and Will, I hope you're listening today, or at least sometime catching this episode, because maybe you two at some point, Will is going to be a guest on our show, and maybe Lenny and Will could circle back to this and how that could all work out from a behavioral standpoint. Will's expertise is behavioral insights, and it would be really cool for him to weigh in on this conversation. So I'm excited he'll be on the show.
Yes.
Again, spoiler alert.
No, we can tell people you're on vacation next week.
I know they're going to think all I do is go on vacation, though, and that's not really.
Well, I don't know. No, I'm teasing you. Well deserved. So Will's going to guest host next week with me, and we will dive into some of this. I think that perspective as a behavioral scientist and as a marketer, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, our audience, you will as well. And Will Leach is a great guy. He's fun and super smart. And
you guys are gonna have a great conversation. So I will tune in probably after the fact, because Friday will be a big day for us next week. But
very cool.
Cool stuff. All right.
And now we talk about all this kind of these things that have been kind of set up. And then when there's a through line in all the M&A activity.
Yeah, there's so much M&A. It was really interesting because there was a lot of M&A activity this week also. When we try to wrangle what happened, I find that really interesting. Like some weeks there's not a lot of that activity, even though there's, maybe one here, one there. But this week there were, there's like a few different things to talk about. So let's start with just money in general.
Sure.
Stagwell, owner of Harris Poll, Harris X and Marrow Brands, reported a 7% revenue increase first half of the year. So it's the second week in a row we've reported people reporting revenue increases. And I just love hearing that about people. I love when they also are open about why, this is expanding into AI and global markets. Good for them. Anyway, I do love hearing that. So again, keep those sort of releases. We Lenny and I spot them when we spot them. Keep them coming into the exchange at greenbook.org. But anyway, I just like hearing good news like that. I think it's great for the industry to hear that other companies are doing well and learning how they're doing it, because I think that matters to everybody. So
yeah, well, and this one jumps out because I think Stagwell is the model, or a model of the new integrated data-driven marketing organization, right? I mean, Mark Penn, he started in polling, right? His heart's there. He knows data, understands the value of data, and they've been buying these assets that are data-driven, with insight overlay and then marketing overlaid over that to form what they call the Stagwell Marketing Cloud. And they, 1.3 billion in sales. Now, this, I remember when they launched, just a couple of years ago. So this is a company that has rapidly grown utilizing this model. And of course, there's acquisition, and you roll it up, and I get all that, the financial engineering. But the point is, they are building out that integrated model that I think we will see many companies adapt or merge into as things go forward, because the tools like AI unlock more value and utility and efficacy, and we're there now. We're starting to experience that, and they're owning the value data chain from collection to analysis to activation, which is the real value, right? I mean, that's why we exist. So I think it's really interesting. And you want to talk about the other?
Well, you should lead this one, because you have been tracking Yabble from the beginning, right? Literally.
Well, yeah, our friends at Yabble, and in full disclosure, through Gen 2, worked as an advisor with them. They were one of the first kind of out of the gate with utilizing the current LLM, AI models. They were an OpenAI partner, and deploying that within Insights. We use them for Grit, for our open analysis. Great stuff. They're required by YouGov. What was interesting, to put it in context, here. A couple weeks ago, YouGov took a hit, right? Anybody was
Yeah.
following this, they saw the stock, they gave an earnings warning. And that earnings warning had to do with specific products that weren't doing so well. And
Yeah.
my hypothesis was those products were being impacted by AI adoption,
Yeah. Yeah.
cheaper, faster, that type of stuff.
Right.
Okay. They buy Yabble. Yabble is not just they are an AI company. They are
Yeah.
an open AI partner. They build models and solutions off of AI. At the same time, they brought in Mark Ryan
Yeah.
as chief product officer, and Mark Ryan, led product at Kantar, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very clear that YouGov was looking and saying, "What's our core asset?" Data, and it is. They're a vertically integrated company. You don't get to access YouGov sample when they have a massive global panel, unless you're working within YouGov. They're building lots of other solutions to augment that with other data sources, et cetera, and they have lots of ways to leverage that data through research, traditional research solutions. Now they're putting the foundation together to unlock that in new ways.
Yeah.
So if we talk about building, you know, building these profiles, this MeBot data type of data off of panelists, well,
Yeah.
you know what? They have the tools to do that now. A
Yeah.
research company, a panel company,
Yeah.
that effectively at their core, they do a lot more than that. I'm not trying to minimize what they do, but that is the core of their offering, is their own owned panel
Yeah.
and their own data, uh, and they're doing the work to start unlocking new value creation out of that. I think it was just as Stagwell is proof of this model, this kind of integrated marketing model. I think the YouGov acquisition with Yabble is what we've been talking about. That this is where we would see companies that own data assets like panels go.
Yeah.
Um, Boom, there we go. Right. So we have two different connected models for what the research industry looks like.
Yeah.
One is very service data driven, but
Yep.
service led, like
Yep.
Stagwell. The other is very technology led and data driven,
Yeah.
like YouGov. And that's the spectrum. Those are the two anchor points for the industry, and they're big companies. And um, I think that they're moving in exactly the right direction. It was a very pivotal. Um, it was a pivotal announcement for YouGov. It's a big
Yeah.
change for them.
Yeah. Well, what I think is interesting about it, and where my brain goes with these is always, what does this mean for both businesses? Like, I guess, okay, great. Now, I can see how YouGov can benefit from what Yabble brings to the table.
Mhm.
Will Yabble still exist as we know it? Or will Yabble really just be, it was, lucrative enough to them that, that really they are serving in service to YouGov at this point? Like, how will that work out, or are we still unsure?
Unsure. My guess is YouGov doesn't. They haven't built their business selling to researchers.
Yeah.
Um, my guess is that there will be some transition period, but eventually that Yabble won't be a solution that researchers
No.
would leverage.
It's
I
only-
could be. I am guessing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing. I think the acquisition was about bringing those capabilities in house
Yeah.
and building products internally and for YouGov
Yeah.
off of that.
Yeah.
Um,
No, and
yeah.
I think that's cool. And I think, when it comes to that type of a deal, for lack of a better word, at the level of finance that we're talking about there also, like, change is okay. Like, you're creating something new. Like, you created something great. Now you'll collaborate to create something, even grander. So it's different from this next kind of acquisition that I want to talk about,
Mhm.
because what also hit kind of the news this week is the fact that Dig Insights, who has been a great partner to Greenbook over the years, has acquired Ignite 360, which is Rob Volpe's company. Rob, who's also been um, on my radar as a qualitative researcher. You interviewed him on the podcast.
Mhm.
Great guy all around.
Only
But
time
that
I ever cried on a podcast was with
I
Rob.
know, I remember that one. But that one's a little different, right? Because they are very clear in their news, their press release about this is like, Rob will bring value to Dig. Dig will bring an offering to Ignite 360 clients, and they are going to coexist just together. So that's a different kind of an acquisition strategy in my mind, is like, we are just complementing each other,
Yep.
different from the one that we just talked about.
Yeah. Which Dig is, so they have Upside, that is their tool, their
Yep.
platform,
Yep.
right? That has a service overlay on top of it. So I thought that's really interesting because they kind of have that experience of here's a proprietary set of tools that we have
Yep.
developed and are very, do very specific things while having the service connection or overlay through Dig.
Yeah.
Extending that out makes sense.
Yeah.
The so if Upside is your hub, is your
Yeah.
platform, and this could be true for any other platform company, right?
Yeah.
Aha, for instance, right?
Right.
Same thing.
Absolutely. Recollected all of them. Yep.
Yeah. So, and if that's the hub, and you start building out service components that are owned around it that
Yeah.
do specific things, then I think that's a really interesting model as well.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, if there's a solid consultancy that brings that level of human expertise or human understanding expertise,
yeah,
I would say they probably all should be doing that right about now, right? Because a platform is just a platform, but
absolutely.
at least exploring it, right? So
Yeah. So congrats to them. Congrats to Rob.
congrats to
Rob,
them.
I cried tears of joy this time. Instead of tears of empathy. But
Oh,
the no, it's very cool. It's very
yeah,
cool.
it
And I
is
guess next, so it's not an acquisition, but
a
new
partnership, right?
models.
I know, it's so
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So Peer Profile, again, full disclosure, I've been advisor to them for many years out of Australia. Great people, think the world of them, and they've always had a unique way of um, building panel. I don't want to sound like I'm pitching, but they go to people who have audience and they give them some tools and they say, let us opt in your audience and build a
Yeah,
panel off of them. And that becomes a data asset that the client, the owner has, as well as something they can monetize. And that's what
yeah.
they've done with a mortgage app in the UK called Sprive.
I
I,
can't tell you how many times I read this kind of saying, like, I am making sense of this. I am making sense of this data and insights company partnering with a mortgage assistance app
mhm,
and the change when you start to think about the possibilities
mhm,
for any assistance app
mhm.
to start to learn how to leverage their data in a
Yep.
different way. And I just
Absolutely.
thought that's what made this mind blowing to me
Yes.
was just the light bulb that went off about anything that you interact with on your phone for so many reasons, partnering with a data collection provider
Yep.
to help me understand, to help me if I'm running that platform, to help me understand. I just thought
Yep.
that's interesting. A world of possibilities for this type of partnership.
100%, right? And we look at the companies that have done that over the years, LinkedIn way back in the
Yeah,
day, right?
yeah,
Reddit, um, uh, Pinterest.
yeah,
So lots of examples, Facebook and Twitter, right?
yeah,
Have done things like, well, they've known the value of the data and they've built kind of researchy solutions on top of that. But for a company like this, where instead of them building that internally,
exactly.
they get to kind of outsource it, but still get the
Right,
benefit. It's fantastic, and
right.
I keep waiting. Like, why the hell is somebody not partnering with um, like every content platform out
I know.
there and
So many.
every shopping app and
And that's the key. The key is if it's a big enough business behind the app, they're going to have that functionality or they're going to be partnering with a large company, right? Like that
yeah,
they have thought through that already. But if it is a startup or a small offering, a smaller business, like I'm not saying I don't know the size of this mortgage assistance app. It's called Sprive. I think Carly already shared the link, but like I'm like, all right, so that's, there might be some plenty of random financial service providers that have an app because that's the way financial service providers have to. Anyway, there could be hundreds of thousands of opportunities for this type of partnership, right? I mean,
yes,
it's
yeah,
cool stuff.
it
Anyway,
is, it is. All right,
yeah,
that gets us into because of all these partnerships and data and et cetera, two things. I know the one thing we thought we would spend a lot of time on, we're not going to, because we're not going to have much time. But
that was not intentional either. But I'm like, oh no, it's we're at 30 minutes. No.
Well, it's actually kind of a moot point now, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, exactly.
There is an update. But the Inside Association, they watch everything happening from a legislative standpoint, and they have some real concerns that the kind of good news and bad news is how they position that. Good news was the COSA legislation that regulated social media and minors. That's great. But there's also a lot of concerns about defunding effectively the census and the ACS, American Community Survey.
Yeah.
That's vital data that we depend on, because we don't do census ourselves. It's really expensive to do a census. Hence why the government spends billions to do it. But so we'll see. But this is why if you don't support the Inside Association or SMAR or the other trade associations, would encourage you to please do so, because this is the battles that they fight on our behalf. They have staff that are, Howard, who leads us for Inside Association, is just fantastic. We need them out there speaking for our industry, and keeping an eye on the ball and trying to make sure that these things don't get screwed up because of how screwed up politics are to begin with. So
yeah. Nope, I'm with you. This is reason for existence, right? So keep up the good work.
Yeah. And then on that note, and let's wrap up here if you want me. So you might have heard X was suing GARM, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. And that came out of some government investigation around potential kind of collusion and antitrust behavior from advertisers. Now, here's the quick update. GARM just shut down.
Right, exactly. I saw that this morning, and I actually tried to put it in the brief. And I'm like, wait, why is it not here? It shut down this morning.
Yeah, so they kind of sidestepped that. So let's see what happens. But it just brings up.
Yeah, but you can't. Can I just put just 1 second? Because this was my burning question this morning. Is you can't be like, I just got sued. Oops, don't exist anymore. Like, you're still being sued because you existed yesterday when you were sued.
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer,
right?
but it wasn't just them. It was also the advertisers. So that I don't think that lawsuit goes away because GARM says, "Oh, we're just done."
Right. And like, I think what I read was like Unilever was in there. Like some of the big ones are in there. Mars is in there. Like there were like 100 advertisers in GARM. So this isn't a small thing, even though it's a small chunk of the news right now. But it was a fairly large association of advertisers who are now potentially on the hook for, for
damages, for
colluding to boycott. Is that really what it is? I don't know.
Something like that. And I want to be clear, because Karen and I debated on. Look, this was a politicized issue.
We discussed.
This has become a politicized issue, and that may be inevitable. But the bottom line is we have to pay attention to this, because our job is to help inform and advise on good decisions from a marketing standpoint. And when there's other considerations at play that may be important, but we just have to recognize that, right? We just have to recognize there's a lot of weird stuff going on. But if we're going to recommend, hey, you know what, the population you want to reach is here to sell more stuff, we should be the adults in the room and say, if you want to make a different decision, that's fine, but let's recognize that this population is here, and if you want to sell to them, then here's the most effective way to sell to them there. What happens after that is up to everybody else. But I don't think we should just say, oh, well, we're not going to do that, because just objectively, that strikes me as a wrong way to do good work for our clients. The decision of what you do is different than the recommendation of here's where they are, and think about the implications. And that's a different decision.
Yeah. And Lenny and I will always do our best to come to common ground. That's our promise to one another. And then also we will always do our best to connect these dots to make sure you understand the marketing implications, the advertising implications, because our audience involves marketer, not just insights professionals, but marketers and advertisers or people making marketing and advertising decisions based on input. So we are in service to our audience and trying to connect dots for people across the board. So
yeah. And so we follow stories like this because they have broader implications, right? This will be settled by the courts, and out of the courts will come some rules.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's what the courts exist for, right?
Yeah.
So
So yeah, it'd be cool if Insights Association kind of looked into this too, but I know this is slightly out of their league. But because but I know I don't know what the if the ARF is covering this. I haven't seen that yet or anything like that.
oh, good point. They should be.
They should be, right? Like, or if they said no, we won't go there, but that's what they should be doing. They should be making sure that they cover all of it. So that's our plea for that agency as well, because all these agencies and associations serve a purpose of keeping people informed. We'll do our best, but we're just us. We're just humble little us.
Yeah. And I guess that's it for this week. We didn't. I know we were going to try and keep it under 30. We went a little bit over again, but there was a lot to cover.
Always. Yeah. We won't leave without Carly throwing up our shameless plugs for our events, because we are in it. Attendance for our LATAM event, attendance registration is live and happening. So that's September in Miami. It's going to be a great event. I actually just got really great feedback from a brand who took a look at the agenda online and was like, what a great event that you guys are putting together here. Really excited about the content. So check it out. Join us. On the heels of that one, we have our AI event, which is going to be fantastic. I'm so excited about this event. It's, for people like you and I who, live and breathe this so often, I'm really excited to be bringing some of the content that is really futuristic to our audience. So, and then of course you can pay for our intensive day and, get up to speed to make sure that you're where we are. Lenny and I will be having a cameo appearance on that day, right? Kind of summarizing that pre-event learning day too. So please join us there as well.
Yeah. What last about LATAM goes back to everything else about changing demographics, et cetera, right? If you ever, this was always in Latin America, first chance to have it in the US, and really encourage you to engage with that event specifically, because those are the experts in culture and difference and of understanding the Latin American broad community, whether it's in the US or Latin America, and that's important. It's absolutely it's the fastest growing population segment in the United States, and all the experts who truly understand this at a depth level are going to be there. Plus Miami in September. Come on.
I know Miami. It's so cool. The other thing though, on that topic though, and then I would really stop talking. Our expert channel, Focus on LATAM, they publish new content with us frequently, I think twice a month. The articles, because I read them all, because I'm acting editor-in-chief at the moment. And the articles are all like very broad view of the entire region. And they cover things that I wouldn't necessarily think would be of importance, but they 100% are if you're trying to learn a landscape in a region that is not the one that you operate in and not your lived experience. So I just think like it's a great channel. Pay attention to what they're doing. If that is even on your radar, it's a great event to go to. And I'm enjoying seeing some of the names pop up, some of the brands that are going. And anyway, so it'll be a great event.
It's going to be great. All right. Well, I'm not going to talk to you again. You go on vacation. Happy vacation. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Folks, I'll be back next week with Will Leach, and everybody enjoy. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. All right. Take care, Lenny. I'll miss you.
I'll miss you too, Karen. All right.
Talk
Bye, everybody.
Bye.